people here. And another friend. Good to have you here. We love you. One time, Amrita Kishore and I were in the Vatican, and we saw the Pope come out and speak. And he's like, there's like thousands of people in the courtyard, and then he's way up in this window, and then he came out. And Amrita Krishna was like, "We love you."
I screamed.
We love you.
I actually he's not screaming right now.
All right. Do we have any questions? Start with yes.
Okay. So we just got done. Reading through the Bhagavad-gītā, through the Gita Collective.
Yes. You went ahead.
I went ahead.
Okay.
Feeling inspired.
Yeah.
Whoops. And Krishna not often, he has stated at the end of like saying something, "This is my opinion."
Yeah.
If Krishna's like the creator, wouldn't everything just be fact, not just his opinion alone?
Yeah. You know, that's an interesting question. In other words, why does Krishna phrase that this is my opinion? He says it at the end of the 6th chapter, right? What is it? Why can't I think of the verse? Sarva, of all yogis, yoginam api sarvesham, madkatena antaratmana shadavan bhajato ye mam same yuktatamo mataha. That my opinion is that of all the yogis, the bhakti yogis, essentially is the best yogi. Welcome, people. And so why would he phrase it such a way that this is my opinion? So, you know, it would be interesting. It's always interesting to go back to the commentaries of the great acharyas on this, and it's something worth investigating. I really haven't. But one thing I can say is so much has been established about Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā. And that's something we've been talking about both through the Gita Collective as well as on the podcast, right? That there are ancient texts that predate the Bhagavad-gītā that speak about the Supreme, they speak about God, they speak about the absolute truth, but somewhat indirectly. You know, the Vedanta Sutra says, my memory is so bad today, I'm really tired, I'm sorry. But it says, Janmadyasa yataha, that the absolute truth is that from which everything emanates, right? Then you take texts like go back to the Rig Veda and the Purusha Sukta, these ancient prayers, right? That's speaking about this being from whom everything is coming, whose eyes are everywhere, whose presence is everywhere, I'll use the word sacrifice, which is generally the word used, but in other words, who you're meant to open up a relationship with, of offering to, because we're receiving all the time. So like connect that. Don't just receive, but receive and offer back. That's what love is. You know, you're going back and forth. So we're hearing about that being. And then in many places in the Bhagavad-gītā, especially in those middle 6 chapters, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, it's being spoken, and 11th, it's being demonstrated that Krishna is that being. He's tying himself to all those ancient Vedic statements. He'll say, like in the 15th chapter, Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo. That what are you meant to learn through all the Vedic literature? All of it, because he says, all is sarvasya. He's me. I am that person. I am that. So when he says, this is my opinion, it means that opinion it's not an ordinary opinion. We can understand that. But we can also see, maybe sometimes Krishna surprises us a little in the way that he speaks, because we're used to understanding God as like this, like a voice, like an oracle from the sky, right? That's like, is going to speak to you in the most formal way, and you kind of receive it like some little minion or pawn or something like that. But we see Krishna speaks to Arjuna in all kind of ways, and just in the Bhagavad-gītā, what to speak of the Bhagavatam, but he'll speak to him in a really loving way a lot of the times.
Like a friend.
Like a friend, because he is a friend. And there's other statements, like for instance, I always found the first verse of the 6th chapter interesting, where he says to Arjuna, it's almost like sometimes, particularly, I'm not saying Krishna was frustrated, but sometimes you're telling someone and they're not getting the message. And then you speak in a way that's like what I would call a human way to speak. Like, for instance, if we were waiting for a bus and the bus was taking like really long time to come, then we might say what? Like, if we're just kind of vent a little of our frustration, someone might say, this bus is taking forever. Right? Now, it's not taking forever. That's not like a factual statement. A factual statement would be, I'm surprised at how long this bus is taking to come here, or this bus is late, or something. But in a human way, we say this bus is taking forever. And in that first verse, Krishna says, he says, a person who does their duties in life, their social responsibilities in life, but does them with detachment, does them without desiring the fruits of the work, he says that person is the real sannyasi, the real renunciate, and the real yogi. And then he says, and not someone who lights no fire and performs no work, which means that there is a class of spiritual person that walks away from the world, that goes up into the mountains and lives alone. And that was Arjuna's idea of what a spiritual person was. And you can't say that that person is not a real yogi or a real mystic, but Krishna actually says it, like he says, the real yogi is the one that's fighting on the battlefield, that's taking care of their family, that's working in the business world, that's doing all these things, but doing it with detachment. They're the real yogi. He says the real sannyasi. They're the real renunciate. And he says they're the real yogi, like the real mystic. And then he says, and not these other people. So there I see him speaking. Certainly he validates those other kinds of yogis too, but in that moment, he was speaking in a way that to me seems very human. Like, these people aren't the yogis, these are the yogis, So Krishna speaks in, he's a mystery, a beautiful, beautiful mystery. I think I shared once on the podcast, once I was at this temple, very ancient temple, in Tiruvananthapuram, Trivandrum, South India, in Kerala. Have you been there? We went together?
No.
How did you get in there?
The doctor for my work. I just traveled.
Okay. And you got into the temple?
Oh no.
You didn't get
I
inside?
don't think I went to temples. I don't know.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I'm talking about a particular temple. No problem. And so this temple is very ancient, incredibly beautiful, and there's a style of art in Kerala. I don't know if you've all seen it before. It's very far out. It's real earthy tones, like this reddish, earthy kind of reddish, and they just have a certain style. If someone Googles Kerala murals, Hindu Kerala murals or something like that, you'll see that style of art. And you're going to see, like in this temple, which is one of the most important temples in all of India, you're going to see the highest quality of that art. And they have it going around like the outside, the sanctum sanctorium of the temple. In other words, it's a room that's made about like 4 times as big as this tent that the deity is in. And then there's a huge complex that it's sitting in the middle of. But for this building, you can go around it, and all on the walls, all around it, is all of Krishna's and Ram's leelas going around it. It's so beautiful. You're not allowed to take pictures of it. Yeah, that's the style. And it'll give you a little bit of an idea. And I saw a picture there of Krishna. And I was looking at it all, going around it, taking my time. And then I was really looking at this painting, and then there was one Leela where Krishna is sitting in the tree with the clothes of the gopis. And I looked into the face of this painting, and I don't know what it was, but it was like the artist was so skilled that I looked into Krishna's face and I said, who are you? Like sometimes we might feel that way. The art, Srila Prabhupada was one of many people that in the 60s and 70s, like Indian quote-unquote gurus that brought the teachings of yoga and so on to the Western world. And they all put out books. But Srila Prabhupada was the only one that he had paintings put inside the books. Right? He was trying to really communicate something. Know Krishna as a person. Know the absolute truth in a personal way. And those paintings, he called them windows to the spiritual worlds. And so when you look into those paintings, they can really communicate a lot. And when I looked at that painting, I was just like, wow, and sometimes when you read about Krishna, it's the same thing. It's like, who are you? Like on the podcast now, we're reading about how all the cowherd boys were there, and they were all gathered on the bank of the Yamuna River, and suddenly they turned around and all the cows and the calves were gone. And Krishna said, let me go. You all stay here, right? I'm going to take care of this for you. And just who is this person, he's all powerful. He's got all the power of the God that we think about in this way that's kind of, I don't know, intimidating. But he's not at all intimidating. He's got all these paradoxical qualities. Just very, very fascinating. So when he says that, to me, that kind of falls into that category. This is my opinion. He doesn't want to be God exactly, He wants to relate to Arjuna in another way. And so he's speaking with this kind of language. That's about as much as I could say. But it would be interesting to look at what the different acharyas have said. And then maybe maybe we can do that. Take a look at that. Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody?
Just a reflection, like you said that when you look at the paintings, you said that it was going into the spiritual world. And when I was in Vrindavan, 23 with Maharaj, he said that Prabhupada didn't face the windows of the room when he was passing away. He would face the paintings.
Uh-huh.
And they would ask him why he didn't have those particular two paintings in front of his bed. He goes, because that's the window to the spiritual world.
That's
So it just reminded me of that.
Ah, interesting.
Very sweet.
Yeah. Other questions, anybody? We're going to need just one. It can be a stupid question, a silly question, but we need at least one. He's sure he's got a question.
As much as I and I don't know if I can speak for other people, but when we're trying to do our dharma, our duty, it's always, I try to do it so much without attachment, because that's part of it too, like to do your dharma with your full senses and everything, but I'm always confused with the attachment part, because I feel like sometimes attachment can be translated as disconnection to it. But we're not supposed to be. With everything that we do, we're supposed to have a connection to Krishna. But can you just talk about a little bit more like in everyday life, like the simple things in life? I could do it for some of the other things, but some of the little ones, I'm like, how is this for Krishna? How do I turn this into something for Krishna? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Can try. Can you give me any examples of little things?
So I could do it with food. I could do it with my house, keeping it clean for Krishna, because I have people staying there, I have devotees, I have my deities there, I do puja there. But in daily life, just at work or something, like it's more like for me to survive. How do I interpret that into Krishna? And then I do, because what I do is try to bring Krishna to the office, and people start accepting in my office. Like, how do I do my Gita, like Bible?
Okay.
Just basic.
Yeah. So there's at least 2 times in the Bhagavad-gītā where Krishna makes a point, where he says, look, Arjuna, you've got this inclination to be a renunciate, a sannyasi, and walk away from the world because you're saying that action creates reaction. So if you're active in this world, you get entangled in this world. And all of these duties in life, they were done commonly, they're taught in the Vedic literature as a way of, you be dutiful, you do your dharma, and what you'll get from it is artha. You'll get wealth, and then you'll get kama. You'll be able to enjoy this world. And Krishna is saying, come up to a higher level. Arjuna is saying, I want to give up all the dharmas. I want to give up the dharma of being a warrior and be like one of these sannyasis. Live by begging. Don't do any work in this world, and that way I won't get entangled. This battle seems like I'm going to get really entangled in this world if I do this. Be all kinds of bad karma for it. And Krishna, he's going to say, look, Arjuna, there's nobody in this world, even the person living up in the mountain, that doesn't do work, right? Even just to eat, even just to survive, there's some level of work. So don't think there's any kind of clean slate out there. And he also says that every work that we do in this world is covered by some kind of fault. That's the nature of the place that you're in, right? So let's get down to the basics here. In your own mind and in your heart, can you begin to live in this world and serve in this world and operate in this world in such a way where you see, now I'm going to get to the key points here. You ready? We walk around this world with an orientation that I want to try to adjust everything in this world so that it starts to work my way, so that it starts to be pleasing to me. And one of the most fundamental ways we do that is we go out and we work to earn money, right? And then so some people are working to earn money because they're thinking, I'm going to use this money to adjust the world in such a way where I'm going to get the pleasure that I want out of the material things in this life. But not everybody's going. Someone else may need 4 walls and a roof over their head, but that's not really their motive. They don't have the same strategy. Let me adjust all the material energy for my happiness in the life. They're convinced, I just need something that's suitable, but that's not where my happiness is going to be found. It's not going to be found in those 4 walls or with anything else that this money can buy me. My true happiness lies in my connection with God. So I do go to work because I do have to cover the basic necessities, but that's all. And so when you get to like a text like the Ishopanishad, what does it say? It's like the second and third text in the Ishopanishad. It says one should know what their quota is, right? It doesn't say don't take anything, but it says you should know what belongs to you, and everything else, you let it go. You're not interested. And it says that one can live like that on and on without accruing karma. Okay, so that's one thing. Don't feel guilt because you have to cover your basic necessities. That was never the intention. But the other thing is, and this is something, I shared it recently somewhere, but I can share it with you now. And I can get you where I shared it elsewhere. In the Bhagavad-gītā, the way that I read it, Krishna is saying, here's a way to live a spiritual life and to he calls someone a stita dhir muni, a sage of steady mind. And he's encouraging Arjuna to become a sage of steady mind. And if you can, then your mind can become very peaceful. Even when things are going back and forth in this world, because that's the nature of this world. And when your mind is very peaceful, what can you do with it? You can absorb, your mind can become absorbed. Yeah, and if you can absorb your mind in Krishna, then you transform very quickly and powerfully and develop this love. And that's the goal of it all. So it's real important that we come to this stage of wisdom, this stage of a steady, peaceful mind. And Krishna, he commonly defines like 3 things that really help define that. And one of them is called samatvam, even-mindedness, hot or cold, honor, dishonor. People are saying nice things, people are saying not so nice things. My mind stays steady and even. Samatvam. He says this again and again through the Bhagavad-gītā. Then another one is samadarshana. That rather than judging people by their exterior body, not only people, animals, plants, I see the spark of life in everyone, right? And I respect that. So in one sense, not in all respects, but in this very important respect, I'm seeing everyone equally. I'm not, you I like, you I don't like, the way you're dressed it really turns me off. That's really cool. and therefore I'm inclined to you and disinclined to you. The sage doesn't see that way. The sage sees past that. The sage sees not only past our behavior, but they even see, they not only see beyond our body. but they see beyond our behavior and even beyond our mindset, because they know that all of these are temporary, and underneath it all, there's the real self. And it's that self that they're very aware of. And it's that self that they show respect to, recognizing that self as the energy of God. So that's two things now. Samatvam, even-mindedness, samadarshana, equal vision. And the third one, antasukha. This idea that no external thing will give me happiness. Rather, even if an external thing temporarily gives me happiness, I lose it and it comes with pain. So any material happiness that you get is followed by pain. There's no doubt about that. I'm not interested in playing that game anymore. What I'm interested in is going within myself and experiencing my own nature, which I'm moving around the world totally unaware of. And if I can get in touch with that, then there's a happiness there that never goes away. Even change of body, even change of circumstances. No matter what happens, it can't shake me. I find that happiness within. And that means that when I'm operating externally in the external world, I no longer feel like I'm in a competition for the external resources with everyone. Oh, I want that girl, but he's interested in her. Now there's a whole conflict, right? Oh, I want that position. I need this, that. The whole thing. I'm done with all of that, right? And so these three, if you have them, you can be very peaceful. And these are the qualities of the sage. These are the qualities of a yogi, and you can practice them at work. That's what I'm getting towards, right? When you go to work, you can be thinking like, what do you do for a living again? It's hard to say. Okay, so you're helping people in the financial. I don't even know what these things mean. I really don't. But so like some people that might have your exact same job are walking to work, and what's going through their head is what they were watching on television the night before, which was, who knows what it was. But you weren't watching that on television the night before, and you did something that they didn't do. You woke up early, you bathed, you put on clean clothes, you sat down, you settled your mind, you did some meditation, listened to Wisdom of the Sages, and read some Bhagavad-gītā. So when you're going to work, you're not thinking, that person's thinking, I'm going to make some money, that money's going to buy me the things I want. When I have the right clothes and I have the right car, then I'm going to appear more successful in the world. It's going to be good for my sex life. I'm going to have more confidence. Money's also going to lead to me getting a better apartment. And my life is going to be better because of that. And you're not thinking any of that, because what you're doing is you're reflecting on the Bhagavad-gītā. So you're going to work and you're saying, work may be good today or not so good. Like the profits may be really good or they may not be good. That's really not in my control. What's in your control? To give your best effort. So I'm going to give my best effort. And the results I leave up to God. I trust God like that. It's not that you're saying I trust God so I won't do the work. You're saying I'll do the work the best I can, but I'm not thinking about taking something that's going to be the source of my happiness. Right? I know my happiness is inside, right? And then you're also thinking, some people may be polite and nice and kind to me today, and some people may be rude and obnoxious and unkind to me. But either way, even if they're rude and unkind to me, I'm going to reflect on the idea, one, that it's my own karma that this is coming to me. Because in the past, somehow I've been like this to someone, it's coming at me now. I'm going to see past their body. I'm going to see past their own mindset and their animosity and hostility towards me, knowing that I've acted hostile in this world in the past, and they're just doing what I did. And I'm going to return their unkindness with kindness. Now you're practicing samadarshana, right? You're practicing becoming a yogi, right? And this antasukha, right? That when you start to move through this world knowing that my happiness is not dependent on anything external, getting that corner office, being in competition with this other person here or there, I'll still give my best effort, but my happiness is not dependent on outshining them or something like that, you know. When you start to move through this world with this kind of mind, it's like so much weight off your shoulders. They're going home at the end of the day, and they got these mind loops going through. How many of you ever had mind loops going through your head after you come home from work? This person said this. This is unfair. All these different things. This person is no less effective or efficient in dealing with the stuff at work, but they don't have the misunderstanding that their happiness is all tied to this. They learned how to be even through it all. That's being a yogi. So you can practice, and for the Krishna Bhakta, we're not doing this just to find peace. The peace is the platform where you're going to go into your absorption and thinking about Krishna when you chant his name. When you're in kirtan and you chant his name. When you're doing japa and you chant his name. When you read his leelas and you think about them. You meditate on them. When you do your puja, right? That other person, not only are they not doing puja, but if they tried, while they're doing the puja, they're going to be thinking about all these people and the bad things, how they're being mistreated at work. But you're going to be able to do it, and you're going to be like, I'm with you, Krishna. You're going to be in your eternal state for that 20 minutes that you're doing your puja, because your mind is peaceful, because you've been practicing being yogi. In the difficult workspace, because you reflected on what you're reading and took it into your life, it matured. It was knowledge that you had, but when you applied it in your life and reflected on it through difficult circumstances, that knowledge matured into something called wisdom. And wisdom means I don't just know this is true, but I feel it. I feel it deeply, and that deep feeling and understanding has created detachment, right? Detachment. So no matter what's happening in your outside world, you're able to let it go. That's detachment.
I'll let you in on a little secret, actually.
Okay.
I skipped corporate twice and ended up coming back to it.
So you did what?
I skipped corporate twice.
Okay.
Well, because my mother was in hospice and I needed to. And because of that,
It's being dutiful.
It got me on the path. Because of it, I got into the path.
Okay.
That's when I started going to the Bhakti Center doing Seva, and I didn't know it was a Krishna center. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And then the second time is because I broke up an engagement. But I will tell you a secret, and this is, I was just telling Rachel and some other people. I literally got down on my knees on the hardwood floor and prayed to Krishna that, look, I could do a lot of things, I know, but I only know corporate really well. So if I have to go back there, Krishna, please, good people, good co-workers, good everything. I cannot do this. I will not survive another corporate job. And he has actually given me that. I even have a little altar on my head. I do, and I have Prabhupada and everything.
Very good.
But it's still that guilt going to work every day, especially when you go to India for your year or something like that, and then you're in a cubicle, like you guys say over and over again. And the environment is great, but my mind sometimes says, can I be doing something better? I'm getting paid at the same time, and I don't have those skills. I'm not that talented.
Krishna says, after showing the universal form to Arjuna, first he showed him the universal form. It was like incredibly stunning. But then it shifted. And it became terrifying. And the things that, because at a certain point, Krishna turned on the time element. He really started to see, I am time, destructive time. So at first he was kind of like showing like I am creation, It's like, wow. And then it's like, and I am time. And then Arjuna had these visions of destruction. Even it said, it was very graphic. It said that he saw the men that he knew, the men on that battlefield, being crushed in the teeth of the universal form. Okay, that was like, whoa, and it's almost too much for him to handle. And he says, "Can you bring it back?" But when he's seen this, Krishna turns to him and saying, Arjuna, at the beginning of this, you were worried about being involved in what was going to happen and being the cause of what was going to happen. Tomorrow's Gita Collective is going to be the beginning of the 18th chapter. And there's a very interesting section there texts about 13 through 17 where Krishna speaks about 5 factors of action. And in a sense, he's saying, Arjuna, you won't be the cause of this. It's kind of like if a police officer showed up in the middle of like a mass shooting and then was about to pull out their gun and aim it to shoot the shooter. And he said, I don't know if it's the right thing to kill someone, right? If I do it, I'll be the cause of this person's death. And in a sense, it's like Krishna saying, no, you're not the cause. There's other factors. There's the circumstances, the place that you didn't choose to be there. If someone else was there, it would have become, like if another police officer was there, it would have become their responsibility, right? But the place, the circumstances became part of the cause, right? That person's actions were part of the cause. Because you had the training and the skill, you were called upon to do it. Nobody else there was called upon to do it, but you were given the trainings and developed the skills of a police officer and how to shoot a gun and how to stop a criminal. So because you had those skills, you were called upon to do this. You're not the cause. Those skills were the cause. The circumstances were the cause. All these things are also the cause. Your free will to choose what to do or not to do was one factor amongst 5 factors that were the cause of this. So Arjuna, we tend to think I'm everything or I'm nothing, right? Like everything's due to me, or poor me, the whole world is against me and I can't do anything, I'm helpless, what can I do? And so Krishna is giving a much more balanced view and saying, Arjuna, this doesn't all rest on you. Understand? But what he says to Arjuna after Arjuna sees that universal form is he says, all these people are going to die. You've just seen it. You saw the future. And you, Arjuna, can be just an instrument in this. But he doesn't say Arjuna. He doesn't say Dhananjaya. He doesn't say Bharata, or so many other names that he uses in the Bhagavad-gītā. But he calls Arjuna by a different name. Do you know what the name is? Sabyasachi. Right? What does Sabyasachi mean?
Ambidextrous.
Yes, it really means like left-handed. Like you can do, most people are shooting with the right hand. You can also shoot with your left.
Hand and the right hand together.
He can
Doing the 2 things with 2 hands together.
Yeah.
At one time.
Arjuna used to practice archery blindfolded. He used to go out at night and practice. He would practice right-handed. He'd practice left-handed. There's nobody else that could stand up to Bhishma, to Karna, right, except Arjuna. So was Arjuna the cause of this? No, he was the person that had the skills, so therefore he was called upon to do it, right? Based on the skills that he had developed. You've developed certain skills in your life. So it's natural that the work that you do is in accordance with those skills. But whether it's on the battlefield, or it's in a corporate financial setting, or any other setting, the idea is you do the work that is of your nature, and you do it with detachment, offering the fruits of it to God, with your mind absorbed in God. And you say, Om Tat Sat. This is not for me, this is for you. Right? And therefore, you're doing what you're doing. You not only do that, you take all your extra time to do so many other kind of services. Krishna knows exactly what's going on. He understands why you're working that job. He's provided that job for you. He's appreciating your surrender to that and your surrender to him, and he's taking personal care of you by giving you so many opportunities to remember him and become absorbed in him. And when you become an old lady, you're not going to have to do that. You're not going to have to do that job anymore, and you're going to be sitting there with your bead bag. And when you chant Krishna's names, you're going to feel things that you never felt before. I have no doubt.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And by the way, where you said the whole first part was collective.
It was in the
between 4 and 7.
Oh, okay. Because you heard it. Yeah. Okay, good.
Perfect. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Yes, Prabhu. We'll send the mic over.
What are the consequences of someone who doesn't perform their dharma? Like if they do something outside of their nature, or like for instance, if they do like a science major but they're better at the
Okay.
arts.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. For a second, I thought you were going to ask me the impossible question to answer, which is always like about when people have to put down their pets. They always turn to us and say, what should we do? I said, I can't answer that question. Don't ask me that question. But that was an easier one to answer. Now, two times in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna is going to say it's better to do your own duty, even if you do it wrong, even if you fail at it. Let me put it that way. Even if you fail at it, than if you do it right. Then if you do someone else's duty, and do it correctly, right? It's better to fail at doing your own duty than to succeed at doing someone else's duty. Why? Right? Why? And
What you're naturally good at.
but what does it matter? You succeeded in this one and you failed in that one. So I'll share how I understand this, okay? When we talk about these dharmas, svadharma, can anyone think of the term Prabhupada commonly used for svadharma? He uses a specific term. Dharma is duties, and when he says sva, prescribed duties, right? Sva means self, so like your own self-duty. But Prabhupada, when he translates that in a very intelligent way, he says it's prescribed duties. Okay? So like you take a doctor that writes out prescriptions, right? They're taking, it's not that every person that comes, they give the same medicine to. And it's even if the people have like a similar malady, depending on their body type, their age, if someone's very old, you can't necessarily give them the same medicine as you give to someone that's very young. So things have to be carefully prescribed according to that individual's condition. Yes? Okay. So let me just start by saying this and then I'll go deeper into it. But let's say when you get medicines, oftentimes you have to take it with a certain diet, maybe certain exercise, certain dosages at certain times of the day, etc. Right? You may take someone else's medicine and do that whole, what would you call that, Kelly Becker? Like that whole combination of, no problem. If the combination of the medicine that you get, the diet that you get, the physical treatment plan, holistic treatment plan. So you may do someone else's holistic treatment plan exactly as it's meant to be done, but it was someone else's holistic plan. So even if you do that successfully, you're probably better off doing your own holistic plan, even not quite right. You understand? Make sense? So similarly, when we talk about these duties, they're easiest to understand within the context of the Vedic culture, where those duties were laid out in Varnashram Dharma. So there were 4 stages of life, and then there were 4 occupations. So let's talk about the occupations, okay? Each one of those, it does 2 different things. It takes, I think your microphone is causing that sound. So maybe if you turned it off, it'll help. There we go, thank you. It not only brings the best out of you, recognizing your strengths, right? Like we were talking about a police officer earlier, right? It's ideal that the police officer is physically fit. It's ideal that the police officer has a psychology that's like fearless, right? Because they might, in order to protect others, they might have to do things that other people would be afraid to do. So you need a guy that's got like that kind of mindset, right? So that's his strength. That fearlessness, that physical power. But he's also going to have some weaknesses, right? Let's take business people, okay? How many of you know some business people, or maybe you even are business people, that they know how to make money wherever they look. They can figure it out. Like they got the drive, they got the aptitude, they got the ambition, they can make money. Do you all know someone like that? Sometimes some of the Indian gentlemen that come over from India, right? They start off with nothing. They build it themselves right up. They become a millionaire, right? Then they lose the whole thing and it's gone, right? And then they build it right back up again. It's like some people could never build it, even if they spent their whole life trying. And these people can just they can just do it. They got it in them. It's in their. They got this mindset. They got this intelligence for it. So that's a strength, and what that can do wonderful things for society. Especially what it can do is it can help employ people, right? Because nowadays we call these job creators, the people that employ others. But really, that's the Vaishya, right? That's what they do. They don't have a boss themselves. They are the boss, and they create, and they're in that marketplace, and they're providing jobs for others. So it's a strength to be able to go out and make money. What's going to be that person's weakness, potentially? What do you think? Greed, right? Now let's say you become a billionaire. Someone becomes a billionaire, right? And they're at like some event, and then there's having the dinner, right? And so this billionaire is sitting at a table with 4 other billionaires. They put them all together. I've been at events like that where they say at that table it's actually worth $100 billion, if you add it all up, right? But if this person, please turn it off again. If this person, if he's worth $3 billion, right? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Do you have to go?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to answer this another time.
Or they could exploit their employees, or.
Well, yeah. I'll answer the question, and there will be a recording of it available. Maybe someone could get it for you. No, we're done. He left. Okay. Let me turn that one off. This one out because we didn't have the problem before. Okay, so his problem so this guy's sitting at the table. He's worth $3 billion, right? But next to him is someone that's worth $10 billion, $15 billion, $25 billion, $40 billion. And what is he feeling inside?
Insecure.
Yeah, he's inadequate, right? He's insecure. They're kind of looking down on me like I'm some small, insignificant person, right? That could definitely happen, right? And now he's thinking, how do I get myself up to their level, right? And he's thinking that his success, this is real important, he's thinking that his success is measured by how much money he makes. Okay, somehow he's got that in his mind. I can't sit down, at the next event, I'm going to be sitting there worth more. Then they'll have to respect me as being successful. Okay. So now what's he going to do? He's going to start to make decisions based on that. He already has more money than he knows how to spend. Right? He doesn't need any more. He could be happy, right? But now he's got this idea, and now he's exploiting the workers more. He's making decisions that are like maybe problematic to society at large. Maybe he's polluting more. Maybe he's cutting corners in this way and that way. Maybe he's cheating people. He thinks he's going to be happier, but really, karmically, he's creating his own suffering through this, right? So therefore, there's another person in society that's called the Brahmana, right? And the Brahmana is the person that doesn't have any money, right? They live on donation. They live in a hut, maybe. They live very simply. And they also don't have a boss, right? And because they don't have a boss, they can speak the truth, right? All that man's employees may not be able to. None of them maybe will step up to him and say, "What are you doing? We don't need to do this." No, they have to tell him, "This is how we're going to make more money," right? Otherwise, they're worried that he won't pay them anymore. But the Brahmana can speak the truth. He's not dependent on this person's money, and so he can say, "My friend, look what you're doing. You think you're going to be happier making more money than you have already? You already have way more money than you need. I'm going to tell you what's going to make. If you go down this path, you're going to do nothing but bring misery to yourself. Karmically, all of the pain that you're causing others is going to come back at you, right? Your workers are going to hate you. Society is going to hate you. Your own family is going to be like disappointed in you. Let me tell you what you can do to really be happy. rather than measuring your success by how much money you make, measure your success by how well you take care of people with the wealth that you're creating. Right? First, look at your workers. Right? Make sure all your workers are well cared for. Right? Make sure there's not one of your workers that is. You can demand that they do their job and they do it well, and fire them if they don't. You have every right to do that. But if they do the job and they do it well, then they should be able to live a life that's suitable. Right? They should be able to live relatively comfortably, not that all the money's sitting in your bank and they're struggling like crazy just to survive. If you take really good care of them, they will love you, right? And society will love you, and your family will love you, and you'll actually be creating good karma on the material level. You'll get more happiness. Try to think this way. So, what is the duty for the job creator, for the businessman, for the Vaishya? Your strength is that you can create wealth. Your weakness is greed. So your prescribed duty is charity, right? That's your duty prescribed for you, made specifically for your own mindset. And if you were to do someone else's duty, even if you did it well, you're not going to cure that greed that's inside you. That's your real problem. Everybody with me? So therefore, better to do your own duty, even if you don't do it so well, because you're taking the medicine that you need for your particular psychology, than to do someone else's duty, even succeed at it, and all you've done is increase your ego, and you never really got to dealing with the greed that's in it. That's why Krishna is saying these duties are prescribed. It's an incredibly intelligent system, right? And it's what's the word? Well, I guess the word is prescribed, but it's suited to the individual, tailored to the individual. All right, brother. Okay. Oh, did the microphone roll? Ah, thank you. No, everybody else has here too. Prabhu? Can I get a little water, please? Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
I think that's why I failed at cheerleading.
You feel like what?
I failed at cheerleading.
Oh.
I have a loud voice.
Okay.
I was a good twirler. No, I was just going to say, it's almost like even when you're growing up.
No. I just need a little something for my throat. Just wait.
I was going to say, even like growing up as a teenager, where you can find who you are and you try to play all these roles growing up, and you keep hopping from one to another. And
Yeah.
none of them fit.
You're trying to,
You
yeah.
feel so weird, like, I'm doing good, but it doesn't feel right. So let me hop to the other one, like sports, and try everything until you find what
Yeah.
you're calling. That's what that
Yeah, hopefully it settles into that. I find the question that I get the most is, how do I know what is my dharma? I get this all the time. How do I know what is my dharma? Yes, Kelly Becker. Oh, thank you.
And then also, are you gonna you might be able to learn the lessons that you're supposed to learn better or at all because you're doing your dharma.
That's right. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
So, like you mentioned about, one who's having, with the over greedy nature or the greedy nature. So, one question I have about if one doesn't have a thirst, if one doesn't have any form of an initial need of something like that, so how can he be competitive? My question is, how can he be competitive, and how can he cut through the competition, and how can he set a breakthrough? So if one has to do any competitive in action, or one has to be making any breakthrough in action. So without having a burning desire, or without having a kind of greed, and how could something can even be possible, and what is the level of understanding of being greedy and not being over greedy, and not being greedy at all?
Okay. Krishna is never suggesting to Arjuna that he have no drive. As a matter of fact, Arjuna was like kind of like, I just want to walk away. And Krishna said, no, I want you to fight. So what does he say? Karmanya Veda Karaste. Your adhikara, your qualification is to work in this world, not to walk away from it. Karmanya Veda Karaste Mapali Shukadachana, but you'd never be attached to the fruits of the work. So he doesn't say don't go out and fight this battle as the most intense competitor out there on the battlefield. But he says don't do it with a selfish motive. He's telling, in a general sense, he's saying do it because it's your duty and it's the right thing to do. And on a deeper sense, he's saying do it for me. Do it with love for me. Okay, but he's never saying don't compete. Right? Now, at a certain point, what do we see happen with all the kings, all the great warriors in Mahabharata and in Puranas? What do we see happens to them when they grow older? They all retire. And what do they do when they retire? They become sages themselves, right? So while they're in that age, they're meant to be competitive. They're meant to use all their skills and use them aggressively, but don't do it for yourself. That's the point. Don't think that I'm going to, like for instance, a warrior. What these warriors really were was that they would protect their people, their community. Sometimes they would conquer another one. But the idea, ideally, was I will take care of those people better than their ruler right now. And I'm not going to terrorize these people, but I feel that ruler's not a good one. I'll fight him in order to take over that more land, right? And then I'll take good care of these people. It's not saying that you can't be aggressive. You're aggressive in that, but you don't do it thinking when I get more land, I'm going to be happier, I'm going to have more wealth. You're thinking, I'll be able to serve better, right? Do it and do it with detachment. Do it because it's the right thing to do. And then at a certain point, that's not going to be your dharma anymore. At a certain point, you're going to give that to the next person in line who's been well trained to do it, and then you retire. And now there's no more competition, right? Now you're going to take up, now you've lived the life. You've had power, you've had wealth, you've probably had some fame, you've had material enjoyment. In that period of life, you've had sex, you've had the joy of raising children, you've had enough wealth to create the kind of home environment that you want to create, all that stuff you've done. You've tasted some of the pleasure that comes from that. But you've also realized that all that pleasure comes with pain as well. All along, you've been reading Bhagavad-gītā, Bhagavatam, and you're recognizing it's time to let go. By the time you're 50 years old, there's someone else to take that role, and now you're saying, now you let go of all that competitive nature. You've burned it out. You've burned it out with wisdom. You've now the theory that's in these books, you've actually lived and experienced. That happiness all the material happiness comes with material suffering. You really know it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And now you're really ready to let go. And there's no need to be competitive anymore. Is that all right? He wanted, many times in Mahabharata, particularly when it comes to killing Bhishma, Krishna's telling Arjuna, you're not fighting hard enough. You have to really give it full effort. And Arjuna's like, okay, I promise I'll do it tomorrow. And at one point, Krishna's like, if you're not going to do it, then I'll break my promise and I'll fight. You know that story, yes? Krishna picks up the wheel, he's running at Bhishma, and Arjuna's like, no, I promise, I'll give it my full effort tomorrow for sure. I'll kill Bhishma. So he's not saying don't. We're all fortunate if we have some kind of like mentors in our life, some prototype of how to do our duty, someone that's doing it right. And if we can see someone that works hard in the world and is successful in the world, but that does it with full detachment, then we can really get a vision of what that looks like.
Thanks for clarification what you told me on this.
Okay.
And following you, one more question is,
Yes.
the good understanding of detachment and the sacrifice. So, like you mentioned about doing your action at the best, living, not having any thoughts about or anything about the result, end result, forget about the end result or anything, do the best efforts as much you can, and do anything with the detachment.
Yeah.
So, the difference of knowing with the detachment and the sacrifice, as you mentioned about the story of Bhishma, Bhishma is the one who has sacrificed everything for
Dharma.
for dharma.
Yeah.
So how we can see the two things differently, the detachment and the sacrifice.
Again, in the Gita, Krishna is he's gonna talk about sacrifice and the mentality that it can be done in. He's going to talk about renunciation and the mentality that can be done in. He's going to talk about charity and the mentality that can be done with. He can talk about, you said, sacrifice and detachment, right?
Sacrifice.
Yes, brother, sacrifice. And so the idea that he shares there is
My mother sacrificed.
the idea that he speaks about there is that whatever spiritual action that you're involved in, it may be giving charity, it may be doing austerity. He says you do it. He says you can do it in 3 different modes. When you do it with attachment, that's the Rajaguna, and the result is pain. When you do it in a diluted way, when you do it without following it properly, then you're doing it in the Tamaguna, and the results are disastrous. But if you do it with detachment, if you do it without any personal motive, he says that's in the Sattvaguna. And the Sattvaguna, what is it? Sattvam Sanjayate Jnana. When you do it in the Sattvaguna, then you develop a lucid mind and your knowledge develops. Right? So we do our sacrifice in life. We sacrifice our time. We sacrifice our energy. We sacrifice our wealth. If we do that without any personal motive, if we do that for the pleasure of the divine, that's called detachment, right? Some people will do it to try to get something from it. But if you do it to please God, then you're doing it from the sattva guna, and ultimately, when you have some genuine affection for God, you're doing it on the platform of Shuddha Sattva. You're doing it on the spiritual level. So that's the key that Krishna keeps saying is this selflessness. You see, you can see this entire world, this entire universe, as it's all working for one purpose. And that is we're all meant to learn something. Did you ever see the film Groundhog Day? No, you don't know this yet. There's a film. It actually took place not too far from here, I suppose, right? There's a film about some man who was not such a good man. He had many bad qualities. And he kept waking up, and the same day was repeating again and again and again. Like he was actually back, like he went back in time and he's living the same day again. And he's very confused at what's happening. And as the time starts to go on and he keeps on waking up and it's the same day, he begins to become he kind of surrenders, he kind of gives up. And a lot of his lower qualities he begins to let go of. And he starts to become a better person. And then he starts to become a very selfless person that was capable of actually loving others. Because love means selflessness, right? You have to be more concerned about the one that you love than for yourself. And so then when he finally learned that lesson, then he woke up and it was a new day. You understand? And so in one sense, we can see this universe is that it's just moving in such a way that we develop selflessness. The law of karma is trying to teach us that. But the purpose of it is so that we can actually come to this point of divine love, of prema bhakti. In order to get that way, we need to become detached, we need to let go, we need to become selfless, we need to become concerned for others more than ourselves. And so the whole universe is kind of like working that way, that when we move in harmony with that, there's a reward. It can be on the karmic level, you can get good karma. On the deeper spiritual level, you get a deep, peaceful spiritual mind. And if we work against it, if we work towards selfishness, if we act towards selfishness, then it starts to grind us. And we feel pain in so many different ways. And when you kind of get the whole picture, then even the pain that we're feeling in life, it becomes meaningful. You feel like, oh, I get it. This is my medicine. And it's bitter, but it's going to cure me. And you can begin to process whatever pain you're going through in life. Does that help? Someone? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, brother.
Very nice questions. How are we doing on time? Huh? I think I'm done. I'm sorry. I enjoyed spending this time with you. If you enjoyed the conversation, we have a podcast, myself and my friend Raghunath, called Wisdom of the Sages. You can check that out and you can get a lot of this kind of talk.
Where can I find the podcast?
Wisdom of the Sages. You can just look it up. It's on all the podcast platforms. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Hari Om. Tat Sat. Very good.